Hi everyone, my name's Trent. I use he, him, his pronouns. I'm a project aide for the John Muir chapter of the Sierra Club, and I'd like to thank everyone for tuning in today to discuss the Fourmile logging project in the Checquamegon-Nicolet National Forest. For a little bit of background on the project, the U.S. Forest Service is attempting to allocate 12,000 acres of mature and old growth forest in Wisconsin's only national forest for timber contracts, with over 1,000 acres allocated for clear cutting. The project, simply Four-Mile Vegetation Project, if completed, will also include 1.2 miles of new road and 50 miles of road reconstruction. This project could have significant impacts that need to be studied before allowing this to happen. Instead, however, the U.S. Forest Service opted to publish an unsatisfactory environmental assessment that does not fully consider the impact on the ecosystem. The environmental assessment, even with a streamlined process, found a number of significant ecological issues with the proposed project that would typically and rightfully warrant further study, meaning completion of a far more exhaustive environmental impact statement. Before we dive into some of the ecological issues with the Four-Mile logging project, let's clarify some of the technical differences between an environmental assessment and an environmental impact statement. According to the National Environmental Policy Act, an environmental assessment is a concise review document taking into account the purpose and need of a project proposal, any alternatives, and a brief review of the impacted environment. An environmental assessment will either result in a finding of no significant impact, or if significant environmental impacts are likely to appear, an environmental impact statement. An environmental impact statement is a much more comprehensive document, and an environmental impact statement requires everything an environmental assessment would require, while also requiring much more comprehensive discussion of the reasonable alternatives and a hard look, if you will, at the cumulative impacts of the proposal, along with all existing and reasonable foreseeable future developments within the project area. So now that we have some of those technical differences hammered out, let's talk about some of the ecological impacts of the Four-Mile logging projects. Um, Studies conducted by the Environmental Law and Policy Center, as well as partner organizations, which are cited in our blog on the project, found that 39% of the species analyzed in the project areas are currently in decline, and this includes the American pine marten. Forest stands are already also having trouble regenerating due to a lack of strong soil conditions and the surplus of white-tailed deer in the forest, which commonly graze on the saplings. This suggests that forest areas impacted by logging will have a far more difficult time regenerating due to current ecological conditions, which haven't fully been accounted for by the Forest Service's environmental assessment. Due to these concerns, we believe that forward progress on the Four-Mile logging project needs to be halted until the impacts of it are studied further and more adequately. If these old growth forests, located just east of Eagle River, are cut down, they will take with them the habitats of endangered species, the recreational value of forests to countless people, while releasing tons of carbon into the atmosphere. And due to ecological conditions, the forests are unlikely to regenerate to their current fortuitous state at any time, meaning that the next generation will likely not have access to these forests as we know them. With the Four-Mile logging project, as you can see, this area just to the east of Eagle River is the area associated with clear cutting. It's a rather large area and certainly one of great recreational and ecological importance to the community, and is something that's definitely worth preserving for future generations. These old growth forests are of incredible ecological and recreational importance and deserve better, as do the communities who value these public lands and the future generation of Wisconsinites. This is why we're petitioning Paul Strong, head ranger of the Checquamegon-Nicolet National Forest, to halt the project until an environmental impact statement is completed and taken into full account, and why we're inviting you to join us in this fight. We only have 10 years to curb climate change, and the fight to do so is happening right now in the Checquamegon-Nicolet National Forest. So join us in protecting these prized forests and helping to develop a sustainable path forward for our state by signing our petition.